Bill and Mildred Olson were certainly among our closest neighbors and closest friends during the years at Evergreen. I don't know just what had happened, but I do know that before we moved up, they had been building a house, and the house was well along, perhaps very close to completion and being signed over. And the house caught on fire and burned. And there was a big hassle with the insurance company, and I don't know how it was finally resolved, but I know that it had been a source of concern before we met them and was a source of concern for some time afterward. But about the same time that we rented a second place and moved out of Bowers, Spruce Island, they moved just up the road to a very nice two-story house, full basement, and as a part of that property, one of the nicest the nicest cave I've ever seen. Went back into the side of the mountain, had an entryway, and then you went in and there's a sealed door. I mean, somebody really spent some money to put a first-class door in there. It's sealed. So it was a wonderful cave for keeping carrots, potatoes, apples, etc. And a great place to hang your deer or elk. Well, as they moved that bigger house, they got interested, or Mildred did, in houseplants. As we moved to a bigger house, we had a sunny window with the sun coming in from the south and or west, and we had a lot of plants going. And Mildred and Bill were over one day, and the kids, Mart and mine's completely blank. The sun is like a sun to us, and she was admiring our plants and commented that hers weren't doing that well, and kind of hinted, could I maybe help her with her plants? And I said, sure, I could do that. Brought her plants over to our house, and I knew that one of their problems was that a lot of them were in containers that were a little bit too small for the size of plant. So I repotted all of her plants and gave them plenty of light and water. Boy, they were taken off first class. So she came and got them and took them home, and as a kind of a joke. Instead of telling her, you really need to water these plants more, I took a 5-gallon container that probably picked up at school, filled it with water, and told her, now I've mixed up some special fertilizer here, and you need to use that twice a week on your plants. Don't flood them, but be sure they're damp, at least twice a week. Well, a little time went by, and she said, say, I hate to ask you, but could I have some more of that special fertilizer? So Mildred, to tell you the truth, that special fertilizer, just water. She didn't know quite what to think about that at first, but she's a great gal, good sport, and she laughed and said, well, she said, I guess I can supply my own second helping of that. Well, when we had that first hunt, we didn't butcher with them, even though we were close neighbors at the time and were together when we killed the deer. But now that they had the cave, and now that we knew each other even better, when we killed a deer, it got hung up to age in the Olson cellar. Well, that year that my mother wanted me to come visit because she was dying, and I went, I wasn't thinking about that deer hanging in the cave at all, and got back from that visit, and my wife said, what about that deer? Oh my gosh, spaced it out. So called over, said, hey, can we come over? Sure, come over. Get over, and I said, Bill, I think maybe I better take that deer out of your cave and just give it to your big dog. Well, he said, let's take it inside and look it over. And they had a table in there where we did the butchering, and he cleaned it off, had some newspapers or whatever over it, took that old green speckled carcass in there, and I said, let's not rush things. And boy, he went into the kitchen and brought out one of the knives, cut out about, I don't know, 3 or 4 inch chunk of meat off of the hind leg of one side, and went into the kitchen. And first he trimmed the green off. Boy, the first thing you know, good smells are coming from the kitchen, and he brings in 4 little steaks that were as good as any venison I've ever eaten, ever. So we butchered it out. Didn't have near as much as you would have otherwise, because any green mold, trim it and chuck it. Didn't try to do anything with the ribs. The dog certainly got that. Well, it just kind of goes to show you that a man that's as skilled in so many things as Bill was, he knew a lot about how to do a lot of things, and one of them was that if it hasn't completely spoiled, the more you age meat to a certain point, makes it the better. I think that dog chewed on those ribs for most of a week before they were given the heave-ho. Quite a guy, Bill Olson.